Poor girl with her baby gets rejected at checkout until the Millionaire CEO steps forward. The sky hung low, heavy with mist. A light drizzle fell, slicking the streets, casting a muted glow under the flickering yellow streetlights. Ella Harper stepped off the bus, her daughter Chloe's small hand warm in hers, guiding her across the damp parking lot of their neighborhood grocery store. Chloe, only 3, skipped beside her, blonde curls bouncing beneath a knitted cap, oblivious to the damp chill. Her coat was far too big, sleeves dragging past her hands, and her boots were starting to come apart at the soles. Yet she hummed softly to herself. "Are we getting a birthday cake, Mommy?" Chloe asked, looking up at her with bright, expectant eyes. Ella forced a smile, though her stomach knotted with worry. "We'll see, baby. Maybe something small." Her hand instinctively went into her coat pocket, feeling the folded bills she had left. $12. That was it. The last of her money after rent and utilities. Every penny had been counted, double-checked, stretched to make tonight feel special. Inside, the grocery store buzzed with the usual chaos. Rolling carts, beeping scanners, the low hum of pop music through cheap speakers. Warm air hit her face, sharp against the chill outside. Ella navigated the aisles carefully, her mind already running through the budget. Milk, bananas, a small cupcake. The simplest things. In the dairy section, she picked a carton of milk, careful not to touch anything else. The fruit display offered bananas, not too green, not too ripe, just enough. Chloe's tiny hand tugged her forward, pointing. "Toward the bakery! Mommy, look!" Ella turned and saw it. A single cupcake, pink frosting with rainbow sprinkles, a tiny plastic candle standing proudly in the center. "That one's perfect!" Chloe exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. Ella checked the price, $1.999. She added it up quickly in her head. Milk, bananas, cupcake. Just barely enough. "All right," she whispered. "Let's get it." Chloe's face lit up, clapping her mittened hands. At the checkout, Ella carefully placed the items on the belt. Milk, bananas, cupcake. She watched the cashier, a young man with earbuds dangling, begin scanning. He didn't look up. $1,347, he said flatly. Ella blinked. The total was far higher than expected. Panic fluttered in her chest. She opened her purse, pulling out her crumpled $12. Then, trembling, she dug for coins. Quarters, nickels, dimes, even a few pennies. She counted carefully, laying them on the counter. The line behind her grew restless. People whispered, shifted, impatiently. The cashier's hand hovered near the cancel button. Ella's throat tightened. She was short by just over $1. Her voice quavered. I think I'm just a bit short. Maybe If you don't have enough." The cashier interrupted, tone bored. "I have to cancel the order." Ella's lips trembled. "Please. Today is her birthday." Her voice was nearly inaudible. Chloe clutched her coat, silent but wide-eyed. The moment felt unbearable. Ella's hands shook as she prepared to leave everything behind, humiliation, pressing down on her like lead. She bent to gather the items, shame burning her cheeks. Then a voice cut through the tension. Calm, quiet, commanding. Behind the line of carts, Jason L. Carter stepped forward. Onlookers didn't recognize him, not tonight. Dressed simply in a black coat and scarf, he looked like any other customer, tired and in a rush. But he was the CEO of one of the largest supermarket chains in the state, a man who had grown up with nothing, shelters, scraps, hunger. He never forgot what it meant to be desperate. Jason watched as the young mother fumbled with coins, as Chloe stared with confusion and hope, and as the cashier prepared to cancel the order. He didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, pulled out a sleek black metal card, and tapped it against the reader. The beep was soft but immediate. Approved. Ella froze. Jason looked at her, voice low but steady. No child should cry on their birthday. He handed Chloe the cupcake. The little girl's face lit up like sunlight breaking through clouds. She hugged the cupcake, her eyes wide. "Thank you," Ella whispered, still stunned. "You didn't have to," Jason said, raising a gentle hand. He pushed the groceries toward her. "Take care of each other." And just like that, he began to walk away. Ella's whisper barely left her lips. "Thank you." She gathered Chloe into her arms, kissed her damp curls, and turned to leave. But a sudden clatter stopped her. An elderly woman had dropped her coin purse, the coins scattering across the floor. Without hesitation, Ella knelt beside her, still holding Chloe's hand. "Let me help," she said softly. The old woman smiled shakily. "These old fingers." "Don't listen anymore." Ella picked up every coin and pressed them gently into the woman's hand. The cashier called out, "$2.25. "Oh, I'm short. I can just leave it," the woman said. Ella reached into her pocket, producing the last of her change. 2 quarters and a nickel. She placed it on the counter without a word. "Now you're not," she said, smiling. The woman blinked in surprise. "Are you sure?" Ella nodded softly. "Enjoy your dinner." Across the store, Jason had stopped. He had seen everything. The courage, the patience, the grace. That night, back in their small apartment, rain tapping steadily against the cracked window, Ella sat on the edge of the narrow bed. Chloe was asleep, clutching the pink cupcake she refused to let go of. Ella brushed damp curls from her daughter's forehead, kissed her gently, then checked the door. An envelope had been slipped through the mail slot. Plain, heavy. She opened it. Termination notice. Effective immediately. Violation of equipment handling policy. Her chest tightened. She hadn't broken anything. An old desk lamp had shattered at work, and her supervisor had blamed her. She had seen it coming. He had never liked her. But reading the words still hit like a blow. Rent was due in 4 days. No savings, no fallback. She scrolled through her contacts. Distant family, old co-workers, anyone who might help. One by one, calls went unanswered. Kind voices, apologies, no help. Not because they didn't care, but because they couldn't. Finally, she let the phone fall into her lap, exhausted. She looked over at Chloe, peaceful in sleep, breathing slow and steady. The cupcake lay beside her, slightly crushed. Ella reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the black business card. Jason L. Carter. She stared at the name, her thumb brushing the embossed silver letters. Her voice trembled. "I'm not asking for money," she whispered to no one. "I'm just asking for a chance." She slipped into the bathroom, closing the door behind her so Chloe wouldn't wake. In the mirror, she saw herself tired, pale, worn down, but still standing. She dialed. 1 ring, 2, then a calm voice. "Jason Carter." Ella hesitated. I'm sorry to call so late. This is Ella from the grocery store. I lost my job today." Silence. "I'm not asking for money," Sherushed. "I'll do anything. Clean, file, run errands. I'll work hard. I'll pay you back. I just need someone to believe I can still be worth something." The line was quiet. Then Jason spoke softer now. "I was hoping you'd call." She didn't respond, barely, breathing. "You don't owe me anything," he said, "but you just proved everything I needed to know." A pause. "Come to my office at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Bring Chloe if you need to. We have a small child care room." Ella's eyes filled. She nodded, though he couldn't see her. "Thank you," she whispered. "No need," he said. "Just come as you are." The call ended. She stood in the bathroom, leaning against the door, and for the first time in weeks, she let the tears fall. Not out of fear, not out of shame, but out of something new, something close to hope. The tall glass doors of Carter and Rowe headquarters gleamed under the morning sun. It was a building of steel, stone, and silence, the kind of place Ella Harper had passed 1,000 times but never imagined entering. She held Chloe's hand tightly as they stepped into the lobby. Her coat was clean, but still frayed at the sleeves, and her shoes were scuffed from too many long walks. Chloe wore her only decent dress, yellow with tiny white flowers. She clutched a small stuffed bear to her chest, nervous but curious. The receptionist looked up, blinking. "Can I help you?" Ella cleared her throat, her voice quiet but firm. I have a meeting with Mr. Jason Carter. Hesked me to come at 8. The receptionist typed quickly, glanced at the screen, then gave a polite smile. "He's expecting you. Top floor." The elevator ride felt endless. Chloe stared at the glowing buttons, fascinated. Ella tried not touring her hands. When the doors opened, they stepped into a space unlike anything Ella had ever seen. High ceilings, natural wood, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything was beautiful, but not sterile. Warm, quiet, peaceful. A woman with a kind smile greeted them. "Miss Harper, right this way." Jason was already standing when she entered. The room. He wore no tie, only a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled. A man who didn't need to prove power. He simply carried it. "Ella," he said with a nod. "Thank you for coming." She nodded quickly. "Thank you for answering the phone." Jason looked at Chloe and smiled. "And this must be the birthday girl." Chloe gave a shy wave from behind her mother's leg. Jason pointed gently toward a small adjoining room with colorful walls and shelves full of toys. "That's our daycare room. My assistant is in there now. Chloe's welcome to stay while we talk." Ella looked down at her daughter. "You want to go play for a bit?" Chloe looked unsure, but when Ella nodded, she gave her bear a squeeze and toddled into the playroom. The door closed softly behind her. Jason gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Please sit," Ella did, her posture uncertain, hands clasped in her lap. "I want to be honest with you," she said, voice low. "I've never worked in an office. I was a cleaning lady. I don't know how to type fast or make spreadsheets. I've never filed reports or answered phones. I don't want to waste your time." Jason studied her for a long moment. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "When I was 17, he began. I used to sleep behind the old West Burbage supermarket. I stole expired sandwiches from the dumpster out back. I did that for almost a year, and I would have kept doing it if a woman who ran a soup kitchen hadn't told me I was worth more than the hunger I was living in." Ella blinked, not quite believing what she was hearing. "She gave me my first job washing dishes," Jason continued. "Taught me how to write a resume. I messed up 100 times. She still didn't give up on me." He leaned back in his chair. "Now it's my turn." Ella's throat tightened. "But I don't have any experience. You have heart." "I saw it." He said, "You helped a stranger even when you had nothing. That tells me more than Arazoom ever could." He opened a drawer and took out a folder. "I need a temporary administrative assistant. It's mostly simple tasks. Organizing files, answering calls, learning as you go. You'll have a mentor and it pays well." Ella stared at the folder. "Well, me?" she asked softly. Jason's eyes didn't waver. "Because you didn't ask for charity. You asked for a chance. That's the kind of person I trust." Ella swallowed hard, tears pricking at her eyes. "I'll work hard, I promise," Hez smiled. "I don't doubt it." He stood and extended his hand. "Welcome to the team, Ms. Harper." She rose and took his hand, not just in gratitude, but in something close to awe. For the first time in a long while, Ella Harper felt like she wasn't invisible. And somewhere in the next room, her daughter giggled. The days that followed felt like stepping into another world. Ella came to the office each morning, walking hand in hand with Chloe. The first few days she was quiet, observant, learning everything she could, where supplies were kept, how to transfer calls, how to file paperwork, without creasing the edges. She kept a small notebook in her pocket, writing down every instruction, every detail. She was never late, never idle, and always kind. By the end of her second week, even the most senior assistants were commenting on her presence. "She's efficient," one whispered. "And polite," another added, "not like the temps we usually get." Jason noticed, too. It was the little things at first. How she placed a fresh cup of coffee at his desk without being asked. How she made sure the pens were all refilled and the lobby flowers were fresh. How she remembered people's birthdays, even, if they did not remember hers. But it was not just her work ethic. It was her humility. She never pretended to know what she did not. She never acted like she deserved more, but she never saw herself as less either. And Jason found himself watching her more often than he meant to. Sometimes when she laughed with the other staff during lunch. Sometimes when she leaned over to tie Chloe's shoes in the hallway. Sometimes when she smiled at someone in passing, unaware anyone was looking. One afternoon, he brought lunch into the small break room where Ella was sorting documents. "I figured you forgot to eat," he said, setting down 2 sandwiches and bottled water. Ella blinked in surprise. "I was going to in a bit," he shrugged. "Still, you are allowed to eat before collapsing." They sat together at the small table. The conversation started light. Weather, office gossip, Chloe's latest fascination with ladybugs, but slowly it deepened. Ella told him about her unfinished psychology degree, how much she had loved learning about the human mind, about healing and empathy. Jason shared a little of his own story about being a foster kid, moving from house to house, sleeping on floors, and hiding bruises. "There were days I used to sit behind a bakery just to smell the bread," he said, his voice distant. "Smelt like safety. Even if I never got to eat it." Ella looked at him, truly looked. She didn't pity him. She understood him, and that mattered more than she could know. From that day on, lunches together became a quiet routine. Jason would often stop by the child care room in the afternoon just to peek in. Chloe always lit up when she saw him. "Mr. Jason!" she'd squeal, running to hug his legs. He would kneel down and read her a story while she cuddled next to him, completely at ease. Sometimes he did voices. Sometimes he let her choose the book. "You know," Ella said once, watching through the doorway, "you're going to spoil her." Jason looked up with a rare, gentle smile. Maybe she deserves it. One Thursday evening, they worked later than usual. Ella stayed behind to finish organizing a client file, and Chloe curled up on the small couch in the corner of Jason's office with her favorite book. The sky outside was painted in dusky purple. Jason stood near the window, speaking quietly on the phone while Ella gathered her things. Then she heard it, a small voice, half curious, half dreamy. "Mommy." Ella turned. "Yes, baby." Chloe sat up, rubbing her eyes, still holding the book to her chest. "Is Mr. Jason going to be my daddy?" The room fell, silent. Ella's heart skipped. She felt the words settle in the air like falling feathers. Jason slowly turned from the window, his eyes meeting hers for a brief, quiet second. Ella knelt beside her daughter and brushed a curl behind her ear. "Why do you ask that?" she whispered, her voice barely holding steady. Chloe shrugged, half asleep. "Because he reads stories and makes you smile." Ella smiled too, small, trembling, full of things she could not say. She kissed Chloe's forehead. "Let's go home, sweetheart." As they left the office that night, Ella looked back once. Jason stood at the window watching them disappear into the elevator. And somewhere deep in his chest, something shifted again. It started with a knock. Ella opened the door to her apartment and froze. Standing in the dim hallway, soaked from the rain, was a man she hadn't seen in years, but never stopped fearing. Lucas, her ex-husband. He looked thinner, gaunt, with sunken eyes and a twisted smirk that had once passed for charm. "Long time no see," he said, pulling back his hood. "Nice place. You must be doing pretty well now." Ella's voice caught. "What are you doing here?" Lucas stepped forward and she instinctively blocked the doorway with her body. "I heard you've got a new job working for some rich CEO, huh?" His tone was mocking. "That the guy who bought your groceries?" Word gets around, Ella's stomach dropped. "You need to leave," she said, gripping the door tighter. Lucas smiled slowly, darkly. "I'm not here to cause trouble, not yet anyway. I just came to remind you I still exist, and so does my name on Chloe's birth certificate." Ella's blood ran cold. "You left us 3 years. Not a word, doesn't matter," he said, leaning on the frame. "Legally, I'm still her father, and legally I could file for custody. Think the court will like knowing her mother was broke, jobless, and now works for a millionaire?" He leaned in. "Unless we come to an agreement?" Ella's voice shook. "What kind of agreement?" Lucas's eyes gleamed. 10 grand? I walk away." "I don't have that kind of money," she said. "But your boss does," Lucas said smoothly. "Maybe he'll pay to keep this quiet." Ella clenched her fists. "I'm not asking him for anything." Lucas straightened. "Then I'll see you in court." He turned and disappeared into the shadows. Ella slammed the door and locked every bolt. She slid to the floor, heart pounding, breath caught in her throat. The next morning, she walked into the office with Chloe clinging to her side and fear wrapped around her like armor. Jason noticed instantly. He stepped from his office and gently took Chloe's backpack. "She can go play," he said quietly. "You come with me inside." Ella broke down. She told him everything. Lucas's visit, the threats, the blackmail, the fear of losing Chloe. Jason listened silently, his expression hardening with every word. "Do you have anything in writing?" "A record?" he asked. "I have the restraining order, but it expired." Jason nodded. "It's a start." He picked up his phone. "Get me Karen Grady family law." Then he looked back at Ella. "I'm hiring you a lawyer." Ella shook her head. "Jason, I can't." "I'm not asking," he said firmly. "This isn't charity. It's protection for you and for Chloe." Ella's eyes filled. "He wants money." Jason's voice turned cold. "He's not getting a cent, but he will get stopped." That afternoon, a tall woman in a navy suit entered Jason's office. Karen Grady. Calm, efficient, sharp. She reviewed the case quickly, asked Ella a series of focused questions, and took notes fast. "We'll file an emergency injunction." Karen said, "You've got grounds, abandonment, past abuse, no support. I'll also file for full custody permanently." Jason added, "And until this is over, you'll stay at the company apartment. It's secure, monitored. I'll have security escort you and Chloe to and from work." Ella looked at them both, overwhelmed. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. Jason's eyes were calm. "Because I know what it's like to be scared and feel completely alone. And because no child should ever be afraid of the person meant to protect them." Ella lowered her head as tears spilled down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. Jason handed her a handkerchief. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "Just promise me one thing." She looked up. "Promise me you won't give up." Ella nodded slowly, her fingers steepening around his. "I won't." And for the first time since, Lucas reappeared. She meant it. The meeting was set for Tuesday evening in a quiet downtown office. No staff, no press, no lawyers. Jason wanted it that way, face to face. No threats, just truth. Lucas arrived 10 minutes late. He strolled into the room with a smug grin, wearing a wrinkled leather jacket and reeking of false confidence. His eyes darted across the sleek conference table and glass walls. Nice. Set up, he said. Guess helping Ella has its perks. Jason, seated at the head of the table, didn't react. His tone was cold. I'm not here to talk about money. Lucas dropped into a chair, kicked his feet up. Sure you are. I go quietly. You keep the charity case happy. Everyone wins. Jason reached into a folder and slid a paper across the table. Lucas frowned. What's that? Your record, Jason replied. 2 drug charges, 1 assault, 1 B&E, plus a restraining order filed by Ella. Lucas scoffed. Everyone's got a past. Jason pulled out another sheet. Sworn statement from your former landlord. You left behind unpaid rent, broken furniture, and used needles. Lucas's smirk faded. Jason added a third document. Affidavit from your last employer. Caught stealing from the register twice. Lucas's jaw clenched. You did your homework. Jason leaned forward. She was terrified the night you showed up. You think that's what a father does? Lucas slammed his fist on the table. She's my daughter. Jason didn't blink. She's a child, not leverage, not a paycheck, and she deserves better. Silence stretched between them. You walked away once, Jason continued. Now you show up demanding money, threatening court? Jason slid one more paper toward him. A custody surrender form ready to sign. You sign this and walk away. No lawsuits, no visits, no more threats, and you keep whatever's left of your dignity. Lucas stared at the form. And if I don't, Jason stood. His voice was low, firm. Then I make all of this public. You'll be lucky to sweep floors. You'll disappear, not because I paid you, but because I exposed you. Lucas shrank back into his seat, his bravado faded, hands twitching. Give me a pen, he muttered. Jason didn't move. Not yet. This isn't a deal, he said evenly. This is your last chance to walk away before you ruin what's left of your life. Lucas looked down, picked up the pen, and signed. Jason took the paper, returned it to the folder, and locked it away. Lucas stood, no longer smug, just small. At the door, he turned. You think you're better than me? Jason shook his head. No, I think I made better choices. Lucas left without another word. Jason remained by the window long after, watching as city lights began to flicker on. Somewhere out there, a little girl was sleeping, safe and loved, completely unaware how close her world had come to breaking. The grocery store hadn't changed much. Same squeaky floors, same flickering lights in aisle 3, same soft hum of tired music, playing overhead. But for Ella, everything felt different. She stood hand in hand with Jason and Chloe, walking slowly toward the checkout lanes. It had been exactly 1 year since that rainy evening, the night she couldn't afford a cupcake. Now Chloe skipped happily between them, holding a stuffed bear. In one hand and humming a tune she made up as she went. Jason glanced over and smiled. Ready? Ella raised an eyebrow. 4 groceries? Jason chuckled for what comes after. They turned a corner and Ella stopped short. There it was, the same checkout lane, the same counter where she had once stood, humiliated, clutching her last few coins. Her heart fluttered. On the belt sat a small white pastry box neatly tied with pink ribbon. Jason picked it up and handed it to Chloe. For you, birthday girl. Chloe's eyes lit up. It's just like last year. She tugged at the ribbon and lifted the lid, expecting frosting and sprinkles. But inside, nestled in a paper wrapper, was something entirely different. A ring, simple, elegant, a solitaire diamond set in gold, shining under the harsh fluorescent lights. Chloe gasped. Mommy, look! Ella's eyes widened. She looked at Jason. He was already kneeling right there beside the conveyor belt where they had met. His voice was steady, quiet, full of something deeper than memory, full of meaning. The first time I saw you, you couldn't afford to buy this cupcake. You were trying to give your daughter joy, even when you had nothing left for yourself. He took her hand. Since that day, you have shown me strength, grace, and more heart than I ever thought possible. Ella's breath caught. Jason smiled. I want to buy Chloe a birthday cake every year. I want to be here for every laugh, every late-night story, every morning coffee, and every hard day, too. He held up the ring, if you'll let me. I want to do all of that as your husband. Ella's hands flew to her mouth. Her eyes brimmed with tears, and her knees nearly buckled. Chloe, confused but thrilled, wrapped her arms around both of them. "Say yes, Mommy." Ella laughed through her tears, nodding quickly. "Yes," she whispered. Then, louder, "Yes!" Jason stood, slipping the ring onto her finger as Chloe clapped wildly. The cashier, a young woman who had been quietly watching, grinned and applauded. Others nearby joined in, smiling at the beautiful, unexpected moment happening in such an ordinary place. Ella wrapped her arms around Jason and held on tightly. She remembered how small she had felt here once, like nothing. But now, in this same spot, she felt seen, whole, loved. As they walked toward the exit, hand in hand, Ella noticed something new above the sliding doors. A freshly installed sign gleaming under soft lights. Chloe's Market, where every story begins. She turned to Jason, speechless. He just smiled. "For the girl who reminded me what life is really about," he said. "And for the woman who gave her everything even when she had nothing." Ella squeezed his hand. And together they stepped out into the sunlight. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change a life forever. And sometimes a cupcake is more than just dessert. It's the beginning of a new chapter. If this story touched your heart, moved you to tears, or reminded you of the goodness still left in the world, don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. We bring you real, emotional, and heartwarming tales that heal, inspire, and restore your faith in humanity. Because every soul deserves a story that makes it feel seen. Subscribe now and let your heart be stirred one story at a time. Thank you for watching.